Now, welcome to the latest edition of the LFC Delaware podcast. The day after Liverpool lost their for the second time this season in the league against Manchester City. We will unfortunately touch on that today, but brighter things to come. We've still got 6 games left. Points records and home records are still there if we're ready. But today we're delighted to be joined by Ben Bergman of OLSC Des Moines. And I think we're kind of doing this alphabetically, it looks like, because we had Baltimore, we had Carlsbad, Chicago, and now we're at Des Moines. I guess we're passed by in Atlanta, obviously, but I don't know, who's he? Well, let's figure that out next time. So welcome, Ben. Great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
You're I understand, a bit of a veteran podcast guest now with your appearance on American Scouser. Anything else you can share with us in terms of your fame?
Well, I think Liverpool had 30 years without a title, and I went 39 and a half years with no podcast experiences, and then 2 in the last 2 months. So that's where I'm at.
So there's at least 2 more to come then, obviously, based on trophies. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for joining us. Before we get started, one quick public service announcement. We're running out of time. If you haven't yet voted for the Anfield Wrap in the British Podcast Award, Tim, what is the link for that?
It's BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. Sounds
simple enough. Every email you've got, said Neil when he was on a couple of weeks ago. 4 emails. Yeah, I'm realizing I haven't used one of mine yet. I'm going to get to that today. Okay.
Well, you do have to remember the password to your email, though, because you have to go to the email and confirm it. I learned that one with one of my less frequently used emails. So.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll work on that later. So we're going to start, as we usually do, with kind of Ben's story of how he became a Liverpool fan. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Des Moines and kind of where they've got to in terms of their growth, which seems to mirror actually a pattern that we've experienced, but maybe in a shorter timeline. But first of all, Ben, how did you become a Liverpool supporter in the first place?
You know, I have tried to nail down exactly when I started cheering for Liverpool, and if I explain why it was, you might understand why it's a bit nebulous. So what would happen is about 10, maybe even 12 years ago, I would go out and party the night before, but then, I'm 30 years old, so I'm turning into an old man, and I still wake up at 6 in the morning. So I go and lay on the couch, and I flip the TV on, and then English football on, right? And so I'm watching, maybe still feeling some of the effects of the night before, and I decided I had to pick one of these teams. I went through my shirts, and I have one of the shirts from 10 years ago, and I also remember them signing Jordan Henderson and I think Stuart Downing were in the same year. Mm-hmm. But the first match I really clearly remember was the FA Cup final where Andy Carroll had an offside header that I think would have tied it against Chelsea. Mm-hmm. And why I picked Liverpool, I just thought, I'm not going to cheer for Manchester United. That's like cheering for the Yankees. No offense to the Yankees fans out there, but
we're okay with defending Yankees fans.
Good. I like the history. Gerrard, the Hillsborough story, I think you would have to not have a heart to understand something like that. So probably a refrain from how everybody kind of starts cheering for Liverpool.
So your first shirt was from 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I'm big on shirts, as you might kind of just
my wife is going to redo our closet because she says that I'm taking up like a quarter of the closet with Liverpool shirts. So
that probably explains why my rack of shirts is in the basement. It's
mine's stuffed in a drawer. Yeah, so you're doing better.
Good stuff. So have you been to Anfield? We should have asked you this before.
I was at Anfield for the Manchester United match in January.
Oh, awesome.
That was a good one to be at, my friend.
No kidding. No kidding.
So this might be
Where'd
very
you see it from?
In the cop.
Section 108?
Way up in the nosebleeds if you turn around in the goal in the upper left.
Mm-hmm.
Upper left.
Nice. Yeah, we were down and to the right. Mo was running towards us at the end.
You were there too. Lovely. Yeah, it was awesome. Unforgettable. And then the other thing too is the sky was like really purple that night. It was like the color of the old purple kits, like from 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. It was very, very foggy to begin with, and the fog cleared out a little bit after lunch, and that sunset was incredible. And then honestly, I thought that was the pinnacle of the season. Maybe I'm a little biased, but we're going to win the league chance, and it was like that was it.
Yeah, it gives me goosebumps as you're talking about it. I mean, when I see it on YouTube or on social media, I'm just like, God, I was actually there. I saw it. I mean, like I saw Allison galloping down the pitch, it was nuts. And then they're chanting, we're going to win the league, which, everybody, in sort of a collective abstention for so long for not doing that and wanting to do it. And then everybody finally having that moment that they decided, yeah, it's time. It's time.
Yeah, it was so special. There is not another game I would have been to this whole season. That's it.
I agree. And I had not been to Liverpool before, and Liverpool is a pretty neat town. I mean, people might think you just go for the Beatles or you go to watch Liverpool FC, but it's a fun town to hang out in. I thought the food was good. I thought the beer was relatively cheap. It was easy to get around. I had a great time. I went from Amsterdam to Liverpool, and Amsterdam has its pleasures as well, and it's a fun town too, but it wasn't. I don't think the Liverpool as a town gets bragged up enough.
Yeah. I agree. I've heard that from others too. Yeah.
Well, you're not going to get me arguing with that. In case you don't know, Ben, I'm originally from Liverpool, anyway. So I love people talking up the city. It's funny actually. There's many ways you can go with this, but one of the things this week that I saw was that someone was from the city who was part of some trade delegation. So they came to New York with people from like Manchester and Hull, and they said all anybody wanted to talk about was Liverpool and kind of what Liverpool was like as opposed to Manchester and wherever else. And they commented that it's almost the inverse of how Liverpool is seen within England, because people, if they haven't been there, just don't realize, I think, quite what a wonderful place it is.
Yep, for sure.
So I noticed that LFC TV this week put out 10 moments that won the league. I thought they cheated a lot because they actually picked 10 games with multiple moments.
Oh, right.
But if you saw it, but indeed of one of the 10, it was the United at home game, especially with the Mo Salah goal at the end, which was a wonderful moment, even if we weren't all there in person to watch it. So.
Well, they nominated each of the United games, right, including the one where Atkinson did his best to hand the game to his local team.
They did. Actually, I don't think he's not one of them from Manchester. He's just eccentric.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
he just acts like it? Okay.
He acts like he's got something against Liverpool. I think that's fair to say. This is, by the way, not Liverpool's opinion. This is our personal opinion that we're sharing around. So tell us about Des Moines, because you sent us some really interesting stuff ahead of time about kind of how quickly the club grew and got the official status. Tell us a little bit about that story.
So we had a Facebook page, which was called the Des Moines Cop. And we had maybe like 35, 40 members on it, but we never had a watch party. I had randomly met Brian Travers and Brian Fagerlund on a St. Patrick's Day one day, like maybe 5 years ago. And I don't even know why I decided to do it, but after the Iowa Hawkeye football season was over, I posted, I said, let's go watch a match together. Like, let's all like take the time, go and be there at the same time at the Royal Mile, our British pub. And so it was the Manchester United match in November, December of 2019. And we had like, I think 15 or 16 people show up. And then from there, the bar graph just kept going up and up match to match.
Yeah. But the game you're talking about, that was the one where Shaqiri scored twice?
I think so. I think that's the one.
So I have the chance to say I was at that game.
Ah.
Yeah. And I hadn't seen Liverpool beat Man United in person for 20 years.
Wow.
Not that I'd been to every game every season, but the games I had been to, we had not been very successful against them. So I was a great relief not to be a jinx. Since you've become official, what's the growth been like?
You know what? Our growth really has not changed since we've become official. It went, from that first match up to about 40 or 50 people a match.
Yeah.
For the Champions League final, we had a big fire hazard, and it would be hard to say. I mean, the bar we go to is what we call like a traditional rail bar, where you walk in and the bar is on one side and then there's tables on the other side. It does have an upstairs, and it was packed. It was 7 deep to the bar on both floors. And frankly, since we became official, we have had some more members, but I still think we're getting more people coming by word of mouth than through the Liverpool site.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it sounded like it mirrored a similar path to us, actually. I think when we originally applied, we had less than 100 members. And I think we had more than the 15 they require to be official, but official Liverpool supporters. But we've grown through 2 Champions League finals and getting the official status. That's where people who have been fans found out about us. So we actually got to around similar numbers. Maybe we had slightly more than that for some of the games before the lockdown. But it does feel like for every kind of brand new person, and I'm interested in your perspective on this, that we're getting people who've been fans a long time who've kind of found out about us. And again, it's not typically through the Liverpool site. It's kind of other social media wonderful things that we do. Thank you, Timmy.
Yeah. I was going to say we've had several people over the like this past season come in, and like as Paul said, like they're not new fans who have just decided I'm going to follow this club. It was I forget the guy's name, one of the older guys that's been coming in, and he said that he was just looking at Twitter at the hashtag #MyPLMorning thing, and he saw, and he was like, wait, there's a Liverpool Supporters Club in Delaware? And that's how he found us, because he actually lives right in the same city. So it is strange, but it's definitely a good advertisement to get out there in more ways than just a list on the Liverpool site. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We get on that all the time, and I don't know, we don't have an inside scoop on that. My Premier League mornings are getting on the halftime show, but it seems like we're on there once a month, and we don't know what we're doing, but we get questioned about it. But we do take a photo at halftime every single game, which I think everybody does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other trick that we've had in Des Moines is we've got like the one central entertainment district where all the bars are. And then the bar we go to, the Royal Mile, is the British pub. It does want to be all things to all fans. So they walk this line that, well, we're not a Liverpool bar, even though 80% of the people there are cheering for Liverpool, which is the bad side of it. But the good side is that if you're watching English football in Des Moines, you want to go watch it somewhere, that's where you're going to go. So we really get everybody that is coming through. And maybe people that have just are new to watching it, maybe having the same problem I did, that they can't sleep and turn it on in the morning, decide they're going to go down to the pub. So then maybe they pick Liverpool because they can hear us all upstairs, breaking through the floor.
Awesome. For us, it was a transition, actually, because so there have been Liverpool fans watching in our bar for 10 years, but way before any of us were watching there. But I think at some points there may have been more Arsenal fans there. And in fact, I think our pub is it was on the Arsenal website as the place to watch Arsenal in Delaware, which, if you're watching Arsenal against Liverpool now, it's probably an unfortunate experience for an Arsenal fan. But the 2 Champions League finals changed significantly how the owners of the bar we go to saw Liverpool. And so before this season, they had actually created a list of events which included an LFC Delaware presents for all of the games, which felt like a huge sort of breakthrough in terms of they'd finally got off the page of, no, we're open to everybody. And because now they're like, well, we don't mind those 6 or 7 other people coming in every now and again, but really, we know we'd rather have the 70 or 80 and make them feel like it's a Liverpool bar.
Yeah.
We kind of turned the page with them when they moved us to the upstairs. So the downstairs is called the Royal Mile, and the upstairs, appropriately enough, is called the Red Monk, which is actually where they serve all the Belgian beer.
Oh.
They don't let us hang flags up, but we just buy the 3M clear hooks and put them on the wall. So we just get there early, and we have like maybe 25 flags we hang up all around.
Yeah.
And then we just have a floor to ourselves. So all the Liverpool fans are upstairs, and then all the other 19 teams are downstairs.
Right. Nice.
Sounds like the league this year. Way to go.
It used to be at Rooney's where we were always just on the one side of the bar all the way in the back, but now it's so big, it just, the crowd takes over the whole thing, I think.
Yeah. Generally, I was an Irish bar, so generally there are 2 dates in the year that we have a bit of a challenge with. One is St. Patrick's Day, and they breathe a sigh of relief. I think if we've got like a 7:30 kickoff, which would be 6:30 for you, then they can host both without worrying. But and then the other is Mother's Day. For some reason, they have that as kind of sacrosanct, and they don't want cursing, yelling, singing people. So they usually move us to another place.
Based on Charlie.
My mother's actually a member of our group, so it wouldn't have bothered the one mother at least.
What is what's the sports scene in Des Moines? I know you mentioned the Hawkeyes. Is there a lot going on, or was it just kind of like, I'll watch English football because there's not a lot besides college football?
So we've got the AAA Cubs team, which is downtown, the Iowa Cubs. And then it's a big college sports state. So we got Iowa City is just under 2 hours east of us. And then Iowa State's like a half hour north of us. We've also got like an NBA, what do they call it? A D-League team. And I'm a bad Des Moines resident that I can't tell you what they're called. The Energy, maybe?
Oh.
Something typical like that. And then we've got a hockey team too. So there's not much for sports like in town, like major league stuff. But in Iowa City, they'll have 100,000 people there for a football game, and they'll have almost that much in Ames too. So people are nuts about it.
Are people typically Chicago professional sports fans, or does it vary?
So Iowa would be in the eastern part of the state, more Chicago fans. Here you'll get more Chiefs fans.
Okay.
The city's only like 3.5 hours away.
Yeah.
Also Minnesota fans. I'm from Northeast Iowa, so I'm a Twins fan and I'm a Packers fan. You kind of get to pick your poison. But what's really lovely, and I say this sarcastically, is we get blacked out of everything because a jack of all trade, master of none, you get blacked out of all of them. So
yeah. Well, it makes it nice to be a Liverpool fan. There's something else to fall back on, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So how have you managed? I know we talked on a few shows about kind of what we've been doing through the lockdown. What have you been doing to keep in touch with your supporters club?
So we have a real active Facebook page. I should have looked before I came on, but I think we're between 300 and 350 members on our Facebook page. And I think we've almost convinced 200 of them to spend 10 seconds and fill out the Google form to become official members of the group. I don't know if you guys struggle with that. Like, you have to get everybody's name and email to send it to Anfield.
Yep.
And like it's like I was asking for their firstborn to do that. I think I don't understand it.
So we've got so then there's a lot of conversation on some of the WhatsApp groups, right? I'm sure you've seen it about. I mean, basically, we're just managing a old style spreadsheet with all of that information on, and it's become easier to, quite honestly, because we have a paid membership whereby you get a shirt and discounts at the bar and a few other different things. So it's been easier to get the information. At the beginning, people would come in and you'd be like, "Oh, can you sign up?" And they'd be like, "What are we signing up for?" Or, "I'll do it later." It's been easier, but I know even now there's probably a hardcore 20 people who are not actually on one of our lists that come to most of the games.
And they will be, and I'm not being cynical, but just Murphy's Law, they'll be the first ones to say like, well, why didn't I get notified about tickets to that Manchester United match that I could have paid face value for? Well, we begged you for your email. Would have gotten an email. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. If face value tickets to Anfield don't interest you, don't give me your email.
Yeah.
But about COVID, so we unfortunately are one of those states that, and I don't know if you can hear Grover barking up there. I'm sorry about that, but we were locked down, bars closed during the time that the Premier League was shut down too. They're now open, and frankly, our bar is open, and we would have really loved to have been able to go there. My wife's pregnant, so I haven't gone. So I've got just to the right here a big patio, and I've had 3 or 4 people, socially distanced out on the patio. And then, frankly, I've personally felt like maybe we should be more responsible, encourage people not to go. But even when we won the league, there was maybe 12 people there.
Yeah.
And so I think that everybody's been pretty responsible about it and just kind of self-regulating their activity, which has been good because we have older members and we have people that are, have health concerns. And I sometimes wonder if everybody thinks all the way through, like, how would it feel if one of our members got sick from COVID and how guilty we would feel if we thought that they would have got it going to a match. So,
Yeah.
I think, so I guess the restaurant, I don't know if the bar is actually open at Catherine Rooney's, but we've had a handful of folks who've decided that's where they're going to watch games. And I don't know what the setup is like, but the people who've gone, by their standards, they say they feel safe. It's actually not enclosed. That's the other thing that's probably, so they can open the doors. Although it's 94 here today, so I don't know if this would be a day you'd be opening the doors. So there is some airflow, but I don't think we're super like, oh, we've got to get to Rooney. So we've offered a couple of other options, one of which is to kind of watch outdoors at my house, and we had kind of probably about 20 people for the first game. There were 3 of us for the unfortunately 4 of us for the Palace game, which was a shame. And then we had 10 folks yesterday, but it just feels so much safer in terms of being able to be spaced out and people with masks. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough because obviously the one thing fear we had at the beginning was the bar might not be there when we're able to kind of go back. So we've been trying to support it through encouraging takeout, but yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, it really is. It's making a difficult end to an incredible, landmark season. Just so awkward. And look, you'd love to be there celebrating with so many people.
Yeah.
But you can't do that. You just got to push little by little within your comfort zone. I unfortunately don't live in Delaware, and I don't feel really comfortable traveling that far to see a game yet. Soon, maybe. I don't know. They are really making it very challenging for Liverpool fans. They've managed to make it an awkward ending to a landmark season, I guess.
Hey, listen, we don't need to hear that from the guy who was at the Manchester United game when they sang we're going to win the league.
Hey,
You don't get to complain. You celebrate it, all right?
It's better to be lucky than good, my friend.
I was just thinking, though, that maybe that lack of celebration with the fans could maybe be a motivational tool for the team, too, that, we got over the hump. Got this one won, but boy, let's do another one. Let's do one for the fans where everybody can they're with us.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hope so. So that, I guess that we probably should move on and maybe talk a little bit about I guess we did touch on how we watched yesterday's game. Although Tim and Charlie, you were socially distanced at an outdoor location, in a secret location in Pennsylvania, judging by the picture I saw.
Yeah, a lot of people walking by going, "Oh, there's sports on." So it's like, this is definitely not a football bar, but
Yeah. That actually feels like being at the beach when the Delaware beaches. It's like you've gone to a part of the earth that football hasn't yet got to.
right.
Which is probably why we'll stick with the LFC Delaware name, because I don't know that they'll find 15 people in Lewis and Rehoboth to follow anyone. But we'll see. Sorry, I digress. So, what was your experience of the game? Maybe I'll start with Ben. What do you take away from yesterday?
I think that it was just a bit of a hangover, perhaps literally, perhaps figuratively. Just, I don't. The fact that it was Man City made it worse, but I'm not so sure that they would have been firing on all cylinders against Norwich either. I mean, we saw them hit the post, just a couple passes, not with the touch or with the speed that we're accustomed to. And I think the fact that it was City, that they were ready to pounce, and of course they were going to be geeked up. I mean, they're the first ones that have to do the guard of honor, and it's a big rivalry, City and Liverpool, and Pep and Klopp seem to have a very professional relationship and respect each other a lot. But on the other hand, they definitely get motivated for one another a lot. And we probably gotten the better of them on more occasions, but we've seen the other times. I forget what the final score was the time Mane got the red card. But they bring their best, and Liverpool, it didn't surprise me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It didn't surprise me, and it didn't upset me that much either, because I think it's a reminder that it's not easy. It's not going to be easy next year. City will retool and probably bring in a center half, which will only make it more difficult. And so a good reminder that it's not going to be easy. But, yeah, it's tough to watch 5 goals go in, even if only 4 counted.
One was Oxlade-Chamberlain, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes to something when Sterling not being given a goal is a minor victory. That's kind of sad. Sean, what was your takeaway from yesterday?
I thought it was disappointing, but I'm having a hard time caring too much. Like, I feel like I should be more upset than I am, but maybe not, because we won the league. Like, it's done. I think if we had lost like 2-1, I would really not care a whole lot at all. I think what really bothered me was just that after they got the penalty and they scored that first goal, it felt like they just ran all over us. And it's not like we didn't have chances, but I mean, they probably could have scored 6 or 7, really. I mean, they had a ton of chances, and I just thought our defense especially just didn't look like itself. And so that was kind of odd to see. But yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything Ben said. I mean, I think it's just a really good reminder that it's obviously not going to be easy to defend the title. I think, like, in all of our minds, we're like, oh yeah, we're 30 points up on Chelsea and 20 points up on City, but it's not going to be like that when next season starts, and they're all going to be even more motivated than ever. So it was disappointing, but we're still Premier League champions, so it's hard to be too upset today when you think back on it. And we'll play again Sunday, and hopefully we beat Villa like 6-0, and we're all feeling better again.
So clearly, Klopp was less than happy after the game yesterday. If you didn't see the interview by the Sky Sports reporter Peter Shreves, I think his name is, it's probably worth going to take a look. Basically, Klopp took to questioning his questioning style, whether it was clear enough. So it clearly bothered him in the moment. Before we started, Charlie, you suggested that you didn't care even at the time. What's your perspective coming away from it?
I guess this was my fear, having Chelsea win us the title. Thanks, Frank. Was that the next game is the biggest game of what's remaining, and it was the game where really, it had it not been decided before this game, it would have been a real cracking game. And I'm very confident that we would have walked away having taken points away from them and winning the title. No doubt about it. I think a draw, had we been amped up for this kind of game, at this time, given that, context, but it's such a trap game. You're celebrating a week earlier. You've done it. There's this load off your shoulders. Yeah, we're still going to compete and so on, but we're coming up against the second best team in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're the first, they're the second. Okay. It's a terrible trap game against a team that can really punish you. So, look, I wasn't terribly worried. I thought the guard of honor was pathetic, and it was so devoid of any emotion from the City players that it was almost like, if you guys were going to do this, why didn't you just not do it? I thought that was really an anticlimactic point at which, and I didn't expect much. But look, whatever. I'm not terribly worried. We're still champions, and I think we'll still probably have a good crack at 104 points and finish out in style.
Tim, what are you taking away from yesterday?
I'll piggyback on the guard of honor thing, and I think the worst one was it Bernardo Silva?
Yeah,
he started walking away from the line before all the players were even out on the pitch.
He didn't clap at all, apparently.
Yeah, didn't clap once, and then started walking like basically through the Liverpool players who were still trickling on. That annoyed me. But I think what yesterday proved to me was just kind of like this. I know it was a Thursday, but that kind of like any given Sunday thing that they use with like American football, that like last week Chelsea beat Manchester City, and then yesterday Chelsea lost to West Ham and Manchester City beat us. So, I mean, like it's been said, like another day, another situation, I think we definitely would have taken points from the game. I don't necessarily think there's a layoff, because I don't think Klopp would allow that in a team that he coaches.
Yep.
I think they probably got a stern talking to. It was funny at one point during yesterday's match, my wife said, "I've never seen Klopp this angry before." He's been there. He's German. But yeah, it wasn't ideal, but like you said, it's icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Got the trophy.
We do. But there is something very unsatisfying for me about losing to them. Especially because I think we actually created, although Sean, you were telling me the XG was well in City's favour, I thought we created a lot of chances. I thought if Mane had been a bit more composed a couple of times, like that, the thing that Walker misdirected back to his goalkeeper, I mean, that could have gone anywhere. But on that particular day, it happened to go straight to Edison.
I think part of that was because a lot of our chances, or some of them we didn't hit the goal. There was one great chance where Mane just like headed the ball straight to the ground, didn't go anywhere like that. We were just off. I don't know what the explanation is for. I think what Charlie said about like the weight off your shoulders, that's probably something that maybe is a little bit more difficult for them to control. Because you have to imagine the pressure of everyone in the city and having this huge lead, and that's got to be kind of tough to come back on. Not that it excuses it, but. Yeah.
So let's think ahead. 6 more games. Klopp did his pre-match interview this morning, where he insisted that what was interesting. He reeled off the list of teams that were playing in those 6 matches, like he's it's burned in his. But then said, we're only focused on Aston Villa. I've only got a plan for Aston Villa, is what he said. So he had some ideas about what he could take away from the game. He said they only talk about losses in the post-match review. When they go to the next game, they talk about kind of what they need to do and what the plan is. What are your thoughts in terms of, is there stuff to take away from the City game to play out in the Villa game? What should we be thinking he should be doing? And I'll go in the same order. So Ben, looking ahead, of course, consider only focused on Villa, not those other 5 teams that we can reel off in order.
Got it. One match at a time, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I thought that Gomez was out of position. I thought that the fullbacks had much better defensive games. Fabinho he played like in the holding position in the first half. I didn't think he played bad. But I think that even Klopp has said, not recently, but in the past, that when they seem to be muddled up, they just got to move a little bit faster. Just got to pass a little bit faster. Of course, you have to have good touch, and I didn't think that they had great touch yesterday. And so I think it's just a matter of getting out in training, being a little quicker, be sure your first touch is good, and keep the ball moving. And, of course, that will probably pay off in better shots too.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he did actually comment on specifically on the penalty, and he said that somebody should have, Gomez was covering Sterling for too long, somebody else should have been in there. And he specifically said Hendo or Fabinho. And I was like, oh, okay.
Not to call anyone out, but I'll call someone out.
So Sean, Villa next up. What are we making of that one?
I kind of hope Klopp just drills them kind of back to basics, especially with the defense. And I think, the opposition's going to help there because Villa's pretty terrible. If we play the way we did, in the game yesterday, the first 30 minutes, we could be up, 3 or 4-0 against Villa. A lot of it yesterday was just that City they're a very good team and they're healthy now. They've been healthy all year and they were very motivated. So we were a little sloppy and they made us pay for it. But I don't think that that'll be the case with Villa. And hopefully once, we win that, we'll be back on track again. So,
yeah. I think there's definitely an opportunity. So I'm going to go to you next, Charlie. Are your thoughts that he'll pick the same team again? Or do you think he'll make any changes based on what we saw yesterday?
Well, I think we're into a point of the schedule where he really is going to have to make at least some changes. But the early changes, or the early change in Gomez that he made, and whether that was performance related or yellow card related or a bit of both, I'm sure we'll see a couple of changes. Look, what I'd like to see is us humiliate Aston Villa the way they carried on after beating our children, our kids, while we were away in Qatar, and they're carrying on like they've won the Premier League title. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of retribution. Maybe throw some of the kids in who, they celebrated on top of and have them get their own way, right?
Oh, that's a good call. I'd forgotten about that also. Yeah.
Never forget.
Yeah. Terrific. So before I go to you, Tim, one thing I do want to call out, if you're watching this and you haven't seen the Sean Rogers episode that we did last weekend, in that episode, he talks about a lot of stuff. The guy's got an amazing amount of knowledge, but he says that his view is that Fabinho should be fourth choice centre-back. Lo and behold, yesterday, there was Fabinho, fourth choice centre-back, playing alongside Virgil. So not necessarily your thoughts on that, Tim, but the Villa game.
I mean, I thought he looked good. It was funny when we came back from the break, they're scrolling at the bottom of the screen, and it said Trent Alexander-Arnold and then Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. And I turned to Charlie and I said, Ox isn't playing center back, is he? And then we looked at it. Oh, okay, no, it's Fabinho. Oh, it's Fabinho. It makes sense. Sean said that. But I think he looked good when he's played it before, and I think he looks much more natural than Hendo did when he played that around the middle of the year this year.
Yeah,
I thought Hendo usually looks like he's a defending midfielder trying to play center back and keeps forgetting that he's a center back. Whereas when Fabinho is in that position, I feel like he's like a good kind of stay-at-home defender. He'll press when he needs to. So I think it's a great idea. And I think going forward, if that can save us money buying somebody else, especially with this kind of lot of talent that we're trying to rotate through the midfield, I'm all for that one. I'm also all for, like Charlie said, getting the kids in against Villa, giving them a chance to get it back when they have some bigger guns to shoot with. I'd love to see Harvey in there. I think we talked about last week, Harvey needs 3 more games to get a medal at the end of the season. So I really would like to see him get it. Just for all the things that would mean. I think he's certainly unfinished, but he's definitely a future star at this club. And same thing for Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
He's going to have a huge role next season, whether it's in relief or starting. So I think the more you can get him like actual Premier League minutes instead of Carabao Cup or FA Cup, I would like to see that start sooner than later. But I would also like to see us win games. 104 points sounds good. So finding some mix there, someone who gets paid more than me.
So I think what you're saying is if he can play the kind of weakest lineup possible and win all the games 4-0, that would be the perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all about the subs. That's what it is, you know. You can start Harvey there and let him play for 20 minutes and then bring Mo in and put the nails in the coffin.
Yeah. We didn't even touch on Golden Boot. I'm going to close it with a last round, our usual feature of one thing that you saw about the Reds this week that you think is worth sharing. And again, I'll go around in same order. Again, Ben, thanks so much for joining us. What's one thing you took away from the last week? A lot has happened in that time. So
something that I want to bring up is kind of goes off of what Tim was just saying. Because nobody came over, my wife actually came out and sat with me and watched the match on the patio, and we were talking about, the players and what they cost. And I think the most valuable player on Liverpool's squad right now is Trent Alexander-Arnold, who cost us nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the idea that every match is important and that maybe being the top point side ever would be a feather in our hat. But I think it's very important to get the kids in. Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott especially, and Nico Williams we saw. It does seem like we're going to have to buy a left back. But if you think about it, that one of the most valuable players in the whole world cost us nothing because he came through the academy and got playing time, that's an important part of our transfer strategy. It's an important part of the financial strategy. And for me, I don't give a crap if we win the league on point differential. I don't care about that, because if we can get the kids in and get them to where they can play next year and not have to spend money in an uncertain era, that might mean a whole other title rather than having a record that will last for I don't know how long. So that's the one thing I wanted to talk about, is get the kids in.
Okay. Yeah, I think I think it'd be good to see them. I think one of the difficulties that he will face is if he does that is that every match that they don't win with playing young players, he's going to have the same ugly experience that he had yesterday with the Sky interviewer. And I don't know that he's necessarily in favor of that. Mm-hmm. So Sean, one last takeaway. What did you see this week that caught your eye?
I agree about the kids, but I also think that we need to see a lot more of players like Nabi and Minamino and players that we're really relying on next year that haven't played as much as I think we would have liked them to so far this year. I think this is a great opportunity for them to get a lot more minutes. And then also just for everybody to just calm down. A lot of the stuff online was ridiculous. I mean, we won the Premier League with 7 games to go. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we get the points title, but it was interesting to me to see a lot of the older heads, Paul, talking about they've never won the league before. They don't know what this is like. Back in '84, we didn't win a single one of our last 5 games after we clinched it. So right. I guess it's not even that uncommon historically. I don't think Klopp sees it that way, and I'd like to see him win the rest of the games. But let's not go overboard with it here.
You did steal my takeaway, which was somebody I used to sit with sent me. I'm in a WhatsApp group with them, and he sent 3 ends of seasons in the Shankly, Paisley, Fagan area where they won it with games to spare and then did not win a single game after that. Now, of course, times are different then. They could well have been out drinking the night before, and but still, there's some history. So, Charlie, what's your takeaway?
I mean, that's really mine too, honestly. It's just, look, a little bit of perspective here, guys. Yeah, these guys have been celebrating an amazing moment, and to get back to that mindset that this team has had for the whole season, which is wasn't it the Aston Villa game where we scored twice from 87 minutes onwards to take a win from a loss? But to have that kind of mindset in this context, it's an impossibility for by the ELO stats, the 4th best team in the history of the game. There's a ELO stats website that ranks teams on a number of different metrics. But look, what we're seeing is an amazing team, and to have a little bit of a letdown. And the other thing is that you have every pundit who's even a little bit against Liverpool, every Manchester United fan, every other guy trying to have a dig in our ribs and get us riled up, just laugh at them. Enjoy their hatred. Enjoy their ire. We are unbearable for another year, guys, at least. So be unbearable, but don't let it get to you. Just smile. Smile and nod.
The Guardian has a email they send out. I don't know if any of you guys get it. It's called The Fiver, and it generally is this humorous look at what's happened. And today's Fiver said, "Oh, so Liverpool held the Premier League for a week, and now using junior playground rules, Manchester City are the new champions." I guess as a way of kind of mocking that exactly that. So Timmy, what do you see this week?
So I follow a guy on Twitter called Stanley House, who I don't endorse everything he says, but he posts some funny stuff. But he had a post today that said, after years of being called History FC, we've legitimately turned other clubs into History FC. And I just think of that every time I hear like an Arsenal fan say, "Yeah, but your trophy's not gold, is it?" Or, we did this and we did that. So it's funny that a bunch of people just before me, everyone seemed to mention the word history. I thought my thunder was going to be stolen, but we're not a team of history. We're a team of the present right now, making all these other teams that used to be great talk about their history. So let's just keep it going.
That is awesome. I don't know if you remember actually in the Champions League tie against City before we scored. We won 3-0 Anfield, in case anyone forgets that, and then won it. The Etihad 2-1, but before we scored, the City fans were chanting, "Just like United, you live in the past."
Not anymore.
I need to go find a clip of that and go,
Yeah, right.
that was a chant that didn't last long.
Bring it back, yeah.
We will always have the photo of the Guard of Honor that we can bring back.
That's not a guard of honor. That's
So
the photo I have. It looks
poor attempt at
before they ran off. Yeah.
That's so the one thing. Sean stole my closing item, so I will close with. If you haven't seen, you don't know who Darren Farley is, you should check him out. He's a guy who impersonates a lot of ex-Liverpool players, Carragher, Gerrard. He's got a great Brendan Rodgers and a great Rafa Benitez, and turns out he has a great Roy Hodgson too. I posted it on our Facebook page. It is hilarious, not just because he's got them down pat, but because of the little jokes he has in there. And Benitez, he has, congratulating Klopp, saying, "But you haven't won a Champions League." Oh, I guess you did, but you didn't win a Champions League against one of the best teams in the world after coming back from 3-0 down with a crap team. I'm still the best. And that was the end of it. But the whole thing is worth listening to. So Darren Farley, just awesome. Lifted my spirits today. So Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you had some fun. We are going to end the recording now.